There comes a point in a man's journey when the world begins to look unfamiliar. He starts noticing patterns that were once invisible. He sees people not for what they say, but for what they emit. His intuition becomes sharper, his mind calmer, and his perception pierces through layers of illusion. This shift is not a random gift. It is the awakening of the inner oracle that begins when he commits to semen retention. Before we go further, make sure to join the Telegram channel whose link is in the description. That is where deeper discussions, tools, and hidden teachings are shared. Now, let's go into the essence of the oracle's gaze. Most men live in a fog. Their perception is clouded by desire, overstimulation, and attachment to appearances. Their energy constantly leaks out through attention and temptation. When a man practices retention, he begins to reclaim that attention. And when attention returns to its rightful owner, it becomes like a lens that starts focusing light. The result is clarity. A clarity that can cut through deception and glamour like a blade of truth. To understand how this works, imagine consciousness as a lake. When a man is addicted to external stimulation, his lake is filled with ripples. Every fantasy, every urge, every thought of chasing approval keeps disturbing the surface. You cannot see your reflection clearly in a disturbed lake. Retention stills those waters. Suddenly the surface becomes calm, and reflection becomes pure. You begin to see what is actually there. This seeing is not merely physical vision. It is energetic perception. You begin to feel intentions rather than hear words. You sense manipulation before it is even expressed. You see the archetypes playing through people. You recognize seduction, power games, and hidden motives. As if you were reading a transparent script, this is the gaze of the oracle. But to reach this clarity, a man must first go through the confrontation with the dark feminine within himself. The dark feminine is not just a woman. It is the seductive force of illusion. It is the energy that promises pleasure but hides dependency. It is the inner voice that says, just one more time, it won't hurt. When you retain, this energy begins to reveal itself. It tries to tempt you through dreams, memories, and random thoughts. If you can stay conscious through these storms, you begin to see how the illusion works. You start seeing the pattern. Semen retention acts like a purification fire. It does not only withhold energy, it transforms it. As the lower impulses are restrained, the same energy starts rising through the body. When it rheses, it illuminates the mind. The fog that once made you fall for the same tricks starts to dissolve. You begin to sense who is authentic and who is projecting. You start reading frequencies instead of faces. Most people mistake charisma for truth. They mistake sensual energy for connection. They mistake drama for depth. The man on retention starts seeing the subtle difference. The woman who plays the victim. The one who uses mystery to manipulate. The one who mirrors your desires back to you. All their masks start to fall. Because you are no longer blinded by hunger. You are observing from a place of inner fullness. This clarity does not come instantly. The first phase of retention is chaos. Old programs rise to the surface. Lust tries to take new forms. You may meet people who suddenly seem more magnetic than before. It is not them changing. It is your perception becoming more acute. You are seeing the energetic pool that always existed but was invisible to your dull senses. Now it is visible, and you must decide whether to follow it or to master it. The man who learns to hold this power without reacting begins to radiate a silent authority. Women sense it. Men respect it. Even animals become calmer around him. His gaze becomes still and deep. This is not intimidation. It is presence. Presence that cannot be faked. The dark feminine loses her control over such a man because he no longer operates on the frequency of lack. You see, illusions feed on hunger. Every psychological manipulation, every form of seduction, every emotional trap needs one thing to succeed: your desire for something you don't have. When you practice retention long enough, you begin to experience internal sufficiency. You are no longer chasing what you believe will complete you. You become complete in your own silence. From this state, you see through the tricks of the matrix. The advertisements, the influencers, the false prophets, all of them lose their spell. You see them as energy collectors, not guides. This is why ancient mystics often practiced celibacy or long periods of retention before engaging in spiritual work. They understood that the eye of the spirit opens only when the fog of lust dissipates. When your seed remains within, it becomes light. That light illuminates both the divine and the demonic. You begin to recognize truth, not by logic, but by resonance. The dark feminine illusions are not evil by themselves. They are tests. They exist to measure your discernment. They appear as beauty, comfort, or affection, but behind them lies a mirror. They show you where you are still weak. If you fall for them, you learn humility. If you transcend them, you gain sight. Every temptation resisted adds a new layer of perception. Eventually, the man's mind becomes like a temple where no shadow can hide. At this level, your gaze itself begins to change reality. You no longer react to chaos. You dissolve it. You look at someone caught in emotional drama, and instead of being pulled in, your calm presence starts to stabilize them. This is not magic in a mystical sense. It is energetic influence. When your inner polarity is strong, external confusion aligns to your frequency. That is why people feel peace around men of retention. But the journey does not stop there. With clarity comes responsibility. Seeing through illusions means you can no longer play the same games. You cannot manipulate, chase, or pretend. You begin to live from truth. And truth demands solitude, discipline, and purpose. The more you see, the less you can tolerate superficiality. Many men struggle with this phase. They say they feel disconnected or detached. That is not disconnection. It is dia-hypnosis. The veil has been lifted, and now you must learn to navigate the world consciously. In the deeper stages, the oracle's gaze becomes inward as well. You start seeing through your own illusions. The ego's masks become visible. You notice when your pride speaks, when fear disguises itself as logic, and when comfort masquerades as peace. Retention becomes a mirror not only for the external world, but for the internal labyrinth. This is where real mastery begins. A man who retains long enough begins to access timeless wisdom. Insights appear suddenly. Intuition sharpens to a point where decisions are made effortlessly. You might walk into a room and immediately know the dominant energy there. You may meet someone and sense their emotional history without words. This is not fantasy. It is the natural consequence of high coherence. When your energy is no longer scattered, perception becomes unified. The subconscious, the conscious. Let's go deeper into how the dark feminine illusions operate on a psychological level. They are often based on projection and mirroring. The woman or situation reflects what you secretly crave. She becomes the embodiment of your unresolved longing. The illusion feels magnetic because it seems personal, but the truth is, you are seeing your own shadow in external form. The oracle's gaze recognizes this pattern and withdraws the projection. Instead of chasing her, you integrate that missing piece within yourself. Once you do that, the illusion dissolves. The power returns to you. You stop needing validation from the feminine. You start honoring it instead. You can appreciate beauty without being possessed by it. You can love without losing yourself. This is the birth of the sacred masculine. The sacred masculine does not suppress desire. He understands it as energy, as movement, as a force that can either create or destroy. Through retention, he channels it upward into creativity, vision, and purpose. The dark feminine loses her control because she cannot manipulate a man who is already internally fulfilled. She thrives on emptiness, not completeness. When this happens, your relationship with the feminine shifts entirely. You stop attracting chaos. You start magnetizing depth. Women begin to respond differently because you no longer vibrate from need. Your gaze becomes like a mirror that reveals truth. The ones who are ready for authenticity feel safe with you. The ones who rely on manipulation feel exposed. And this is where the oracle's gaze becomes a gift to the world. It is not about judgment or superiority. It is about healing perception. The more you see through illusions, the more compassion you develop for those still trapped in them. You become a silent teacher, showing by presence rather than preaching. There is a mysterious peace that comes with this sight. You stop being reactive. You stop wasting energy on proving, defending, or chasing. You begin to live in alignment with a rhythm that feels ancient, yet immediate. Every breath becomes a meditation. Every moment becomes a revelation. You see life as a play of energy, and you remain anchored in awareness. This is the true power of semen retention, when practiced not for ego, but for awakening. It is the path of clarity, perception, and truth. The oracle's gaze is not something you acquire. It is something that reveals itself when all noise subsides. So if you are walking this path, remember, it is not just about control. It is about transformation. It is about seeing what others cannot, and acting from a higher intelligence. The temptations will come. The illusions will whisper. But every time you choose awareness over reaction, your sight sharpens. The darkness cannot deceive a man who has seen the source of his own light. At some point you realize that semen retention is not a rule, but a reflection of respect for your energy. It becomes effortless. You no longer force it. You live it. And from that living clarity, life itself becomes transparent. You see through the dark feminine illusions, not with suspicion, but with understanding. You know their purpose. You honor their lesson. You rise above them without hostility. That is when the oracle within you fully awakens. You see not just through people, but through time, through fate, through the patterns that bind humanity. You become the calm witness of the world's hypnosis, untouched by it, yet guiding others out of it through your vibration alone. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to join the Telegram channel. There, the teachings continue, deeper and more practical. And if you found value in this, consider contributing using the thanks button below. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps keep this wisdom alive and expanding. Your clarity is your greatest power. Protect it. Cultivate Italiano. And when you see through illusions, remember the oracle does not fight shadows. It simply shines.